Watching crime unfold under the pale moonlight. From the darkest corner, stories unfold. True crime jewels, she's brash and she is bold. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From missing kids in Tennessee to angry husbands named buried. True crime's calling, and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This True Crime Jewels got what you need. From missing people to twisted minds, we're unraveling secrets old Barry tried to hide. Every clue, every twist and turn. In the world of crime, there's always more to learn. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From Christopher's anger to Stephen Fisher's lies. The truth is calling, and justice won't be denied. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. True Crime Jewels on the YouTube streets.
All right, everybody. I hope you guys are doing very, very well. I myself am doing great. And I do have somebody, one of my friends is going to be up on panel with me tonight, just kind of having a conversation and visiting. And her name is Art of the Crime. Do you want to say hello, Art of the Crime?
Hello.
All right. So first of all, I want to say hey to everyone. So how are you, brown-eyed girl? Hello, Kelly. Hoppy. How are you? Random the Dime. Zelda, my friend. Love your awesome music. I'm glad you didn't ask me, but I do. A frog. Zelda, you're too cute. Hey, Tam, good to see you. Brash and bold, dude. Oh, my goodness. Tell me it is not Christopher Proudfoot. That will not make me a happy camper. Hey, Carol, good to see you. Sunshine on my shoulders. Castle, Jackie Blue. I know, Jackie, I usually sing to you, but not tonight because I'm hurrying. Hey, Denise P.I., how are you doing? Okay. Yeah, possibly brash and bold, dude. Shelly Tompkins, welcome. And Pamela, link for Art of the Crime. I don't know. I don't have it. I'll get it in just a minute, okay? I didn't think about putting it up there. She doesn't have any content up. She's a subscriber. All right. Hey, Castle. Okay, everybody. Oh, we forgot to look to see who was first. Let me see who won. Art of the Crime is first, and then Brown-Eyed Girl. All right. So we're going to talk about a couple of things tonight, okay? And one of the things we're going to talk about with Art of the Crime is she's been studying this case, the Sebastian Rogers going missing. She's been trying to kind of get into it and understand the various moving parts and the subtleties of the case, and the various sycophants. And you will probably agree with me that it's not an easy case, right? It is incredibly, incredibly complicated. Hey, rumor has it, good to see you. So it's a complicated case for any number of reasons. Part of it is, I think, the personalities that have gotten involved in these descriptions. Hey, Sheila Upton, Kimberly Clafter. A lot of these personalities that have gotten involved in this discussion, well, they're more than just brash or bold. I mean, we have magical unicorns. We have Cheesy Wheezy, who's a rather unpleasant sort. And then we have Queen Bee, who, I don't know, she just one day struck my channel and I was just like, damn, what was I doing to bug you, right? So she clearly doesn't care much for people that support Sebastian and kind of feel like Seth is true blue and that he does in fact care deeply about his son that is missing. And it is kind of unfortunate that you get the feeling that Seth may be Seth and his mother, Robin, they may be the only two that really care that Sebastian is gone. So that is a terrible, tragic thing. One thing I think that doesn't get enough attention, and we really should bring it up, is that Sebastian's teachers at school loved him. They loved him so much, and they helped him so many times that they were the ones that called CPS, trying to get him some protection, trying to get him some help. And somehow, and I got my opinions on this, but somehow or another, the CPS reports were being made. They are mandated to be investigated after 2 reports have been made in a certain period of time. And so what we ended up with were 5 investigations where Christopher Proudfoot is named the aggressor. And in a few of those 5 reports, Katie Proudfoot is actually named in the report as an enabler. And even though these teachers were really supporting Sebastian and trying to get him some help, somehow they were able to hide these CPS reports from Seth. It is frightening. It is really chilling. There's of course gossip that there may be a friend in the department with Christopher Proudfoot, and that is how they were able to bury these investigations. And the father of Sebastian was never notified. But once Sebastian went missing and he began to hear rumors of these supposed CPS reports, that he should have been notified as the father who had, shared custody with Katie. He should have been notified. He never was. 5 reports in 2 years, and he was never notified. And so he hired an attorney. This all happened after Sebastian went missing. He hired an attorney, and, he was horrified to learn that there were all of these instances of outright abuse. Not that Katie was the abuser, but that she enabled Christopher Proudfoot as the abuser. And the most recent investigation was about an incident that happened only a few weeks before Sebastian went missing. This case is a real case in terms of circumstantial evidence. It's my opinion that this district attorney could bring charges, maybe just endangerment, but they could do enough that they could make some arrests. It is crazy that there are 5 investigations in 2 years. One of them was opened in January of 2024. And within weeks, literally like 3 weeks of the January event, within 3 weeks, Sebastian would be gone. So regardless of how brash and bold Mr. Proudfoot is, there is a great deal of suspicion hanging over their heads, stemming all the way back 2 years ago. I don't know how many of you guys remember this, but I don't remember how soon it was. Maybe it was like 2 or 3 weeks after Sebastian went missing. Robin Rogers, Sebastian's paternal grandmother, came out, and she said that she blamed Katie, and that Christopher Proudfoot was aggressive, that he had been aggressive with her, and that Sebastian was terrified of Christopher Proudfoot. So there's a lot of circumstantial evidence, regardless of what the other side wants to say, regardless of how they no matter how firmly they state that what they're saying is right, the reality is that the involvement of CPS in January is a game changer. And it's my opinion that this grand jury is going to hand down indictments. I believe that in my heart. I do. All right. So what you guys recognize what I have up here. I don't know if we misplaced. I think we misplaced. No, there she is. Okay. So what I have up here is I have the Queen Bee Live where Laura Lodge made an appearance. And, you know, to Laura Lodge's credit, to Aiden Mattis's credit, he managed it very well in spite of this group of women being very aggressive and ridiculous toward him. And so there was a part in here that I want to watch. So let me get this playing. And remember, the question that I'm asking tonight in this video is, are people victim blaming Sebastian Rogers? Are the people that are standing in support of Christopher Proudfeet, the people that seem to be deaf, dumb, and blind for the actual circumstantial evidence that's available, are they actually taking a step to actually blame Sebastian Rogers? Because I don't know about you guys, but victim shaming and victim blaming is one of the most egregious things that a person can do. You know what I mean? And we're going to pop up our little disclaimer here for a moment. This is a reaction video. This is fair use for criticism, comment, news reporting, and research. We're doing a little bit of research here to help Art of the Crime get caught up on this case. All right. So I'll be quiet now and I'll play the clip. Okay. Let me turn my sound up.
Some of the other names off the top of my head. I looked at Clue. I looked at Che. I looked at basically every interview I'd seen, every bit of coverage I'd seen. I compiled it all and I did my best to analyze what I found. And in my opinion, based on the statements that Chris made, based on the statements that Katie made, and then based on the court records and the decisions made following some of these court decisions, it was my opinion, it remains my opinion, that...
Well, seeing a lot of these people that you're watching are not very credible.
Well, I'm watching you. I'm watching Duchess. I looked at a whole bunch of different things. And the thing is, I didn't just take what you guys said and go, oh, okay, that's what happened.
Yeah, because, I'm kind of curious about the abuse that happened with Seth and the stuff that happened there. Because you seem to only have a one-way track, a one-track mind with Chris. But and I'll address him as Seth, has done some pretty shitty things himself,
Okay, now then, this group of sycophants, obsequious sycophants, they get really aggressive. Like, this is a rather unpleasant group of people. You know what I mean? They will attack you at the drop of a hat. What I find to be so amusing at how they launch their attacks, however, is that they just kind of pull out like convenient arguments or convenient facts as they go. They haven't, I don't think, really stopped to kind of look at it in a rational, logical manner and say to themselves, okay, yes, this happened, but what could it mean? So Queen Bee, the creator who struck my channel in the most unrighteous of fashions. Yeah, Queen Bee, you did that. She is saying, oh, but what about what happened, a decade ago as Katie and Seth are going through their divorce, and Katie makes an outcry against Seth that he's being abusive. What about that? Regardless that people have already come forth and said, okay, that was just hard feelings during a divorce. Those hard feelings were on both sides. We both behaved badly. We have since moved on from those bad times. And in fact, we're co-parenting pretty effectively in the past 2 years, let's say, right? They don't want to hear that. And they damn sure don't want to hear 5 CPS cases in Tennessee where Sebastian is the named victim, Christopher Proudfoot is the named perpetrator, and Katie Proudfoot is an enabler in like 3 of the reports. And Queen Bee certainly does not want to acknowledge, nor does Cluminati. They do not want to acknowledge that the nearest outcry was January, only weeks before this young man went missing. They just completely look right over that. And then they go, yeah, but what about happened 10 years ago? We have to be logical. People live their lives. We have periods of time in our lives where maybe bad things are happening and people don't behave well. But it's not likely that someone is going to disappear a kid over something that happened 10 years ago. It's usually when these things happen, it's usually because there's something high emotion that's happening in the here and now. And the most recent episode of that was January, and it was Christopher Proudfoot that the teachers named, Sebastian named as the aggressor. Never forget that. We're talking about teachers making the report. They're not going to make a report simply based on Sebastian saying, hey, my stepdad yelled at me. My stepdad hit me. My stepdad spanked me. They're going to want to see something because they know that those CPS investigators are going to come into the school, usually when the parents don't even know. They come into the school and they say, okay, do you have any bruises? Tell me the story. Did anybody see it? 5 investigations in 2 years. I don't really care what happened during the divorce. I care about what happened in January that led to an open investigation that remains open today. And your boy, Christopher, lied multiple times on YouTube channels when asked point blank, do you have an open CPS investigation? He said no. And then he said, oh, wait, well, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation opens up a case whenever there is a runaway. But he bald-faced lied to you guys and me. There was an outcry in January, weeks before Sebastian went missing, and Christopher is named the aggressor.
I understand that.
Essay. There was no mention in his trauma, Sebastian's trauma, his essay, or the fact that he had to wear undergarments, or I'm not going to sit here and say diapers because he's not a baby. But there was reasons. Also coming on here and pretending to jack off on a live stream. The things that he's done are awful. Like some of the things that he's done. Now
this woman is saying things that most of us have heard nothing about. Nobody has any idea what she is referencing when she makes that filthy reference to what a male behavior, I guess. Nobody knows what that's even about. She's just being insightful, not SIGHT, but CITE. She's just trying to convince Aiden that he's barking up the wrong tree as he stands in support of Seth and Sebastian. She's trying to get him to look at Seth. She's trying to indict Seth so that maybe Christopher Proudfoot looks less guilty. But I don't know, Queen Bee. The truth is, how is it any better if Sebastian had 3 abusers rather than 2 or 1 abuser? Like, how does that help Sebastian if we have not only Christopher Proudfoot is named as the aggressor, Katie Proudfoot is named as the enabler, and then Seth is going to be another aggressor? You feel good about that, Queen Bee? You think that makes this situation with Sebastian any better at all? That all 3 of his parents would be equal opportunity abusers? I don't think that helps him at all. I think it's a nightmare. I think my hope being that Seth was supportive of Sebastian and gave love to Sebastian, and that Sebastian felt safe when he was with his dad. That's my hope for this. Not that this boy was failed by all three parents. But if that makes you feel better, Queen Bee, then get after it. But that is not what I want to think that kid lived through.
Are fucking horrible.
Oh,
And as I said last night in my
warning
stream,
to the
I
cuss
don't think
words.
Seth is a saint
Sorry.
either. I have no
Oh, look, it's the magical unicorn.
loyalty to either side here. My only loyalty is to Sebastian. I have an autistic little brother. He reminds me quite a bit of Sebastian.
I don't want to.
Truck and a penis.
Maybe
Got
take a
nothing
look
to
at the
do.
actual
No,
channel
no,
instead
we're not listening to
of
the
me.
magical
Well,
unicorn
you
tonight.
can go and look at them. They're
I can't
that doesn't-
tolerate the magical
But this
unicorn.
is over in a whole different, so we can't say like it's Sumner County being corrupt. We're from the same.
I want to listen to Granny's
this
watching.
needs to be corroborated.
Art of the Crime, I hope you're still with us. I know you got your microphone muted.
I am seeing the
But
Sumner
hold
County
on,
Sheriff's
Steve.
Office be weirdly evasive, while the TBI is very direct, and the FBI is involved, but they're not saying in exactly what way.
What do you mean by weird?
Well,
It doesn't seem like everybody's on the same page.
Well, Aiden, would you admit that there's likely something they know that you don't?
It's entirely possible there's stuff that they know that I don't.
It's
Would
likely.
you admit that perhaps knowing all that information could give a drastic different outlook? And at that point, you've incited an audience by your conviction that these parents are guilty. If it came out that they weren't, do you realize the impact you have had?
I would feel horrible about it, and I would apologize.
And again, we're right back to the virtue signaling. Now, Granny, look, girl, you know I like you, okay? You know that. You know I've been in your channel for long years even, okay? But the truth is, you've kind of jumped on the bandwagon with the virtue signalers, and you like to use this notion that you are more moral than any of the rest of us who just want to talk about this case in terms of the facts, using logic and rational thought. And you're saying to a man who's got a degree from what is basically an Ivy League college, Aiden Mattis graduated from Penn State. He's got an amazing education. He only 2 years out of college, he had his own business, and he has grown his channel in like a year or two from 150,000 to over 600,000 subscribers. He is running a really, really great company. He writes all of his scripts. He is also a ghostwriter for other people who are either writing books or they're getting scripts for their own YouTube channels. And you are literally asking this man, oh, but do you know how bad it would be if his parents were innocent and you incited all these people to be mad at them? Yes. Yes, Granny's watching. We all know that. Every one of us that is looking at the facts of what happened when Sebastian Rogers went missing and the background and history of the individuals that was in this boy's life, and the fact that if we are wrong, then we're gonna owe Christopher and Katie Proudfoot an apology. We know that. We don't need you to like berate us like we're a small child, right? We have the ability to look at a situation and say, hey, you know, I'm having a little bit of a problem here. This animal claims to be an elephant. And I'm looking at this animal who says, hi, I'm an elephant. And I'm thinking in my head, well, does this look like other elephants that I've seen? Does this elephant fit what I already know to be true about elephants? And then I say, actually, you know, if it walks like a duck and it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's not an elephant. It does require a certain level of confidence to be able to have that discernment, right? Which is why, if you look back to the beginning of this case, many, I would say nearly everyone just said, wow, it's so sad that Sebastian's gone. This is a real shame. And that's it. And then Christopher Proudfoot started making his, oh, look, I'm going to be a celebrity rounds on the streets of YouTube. And if ever there was a example of fathers behaving badly, that was the movie title that was reserved for Christopher Proudfoot and his experience on YouTube. The dude is a mess. His anger is so out of control. He has literally zero control over his anger, in my opinion, which is another logically worrisome factor. So yes, Granny, I get what you're saying, that we can't just run around accusing people. Remember, Granny, I'm literally the only person in North America who believes that Charlie Adelson is innocent. So I get what you're saying. I get that it is possible for someone to have charges brought against them and even be found guilty, and there's still that possibility that they are actually innocent. But in this case, the disappearance of a 15-year-old kid, I don't know what did happen, Granny, but I am absolutely certain beyond a shadow of a doubt that the story that was told by Katie Proudfoot is not true.
Does.
Well, and at that point, do you think an apology does much? Do you think that we have a responsibility as channel
It's
owners, especially one
palpable,
of your
Moonlight View,
size,
yes,
to make sure that for example, I listen to your, and I don't disagree entirely with you. Believe it or not, I know, you may see that I'm involved in a RICO and alleged believing the Proudfoots or whatever, but I don't. Okay, I honestly don't. But I did listen to you give all these facts of Nina. And then after you stated all that, so you know as well as I know the way it works, that's what people are leaving with.
Now, Granny, there's another part to this, right? You're sitting here, you're lecturing Aiden Mattis as if he were your 10-year-old son. And he's not. He's a grown-ass man who's running his own business in a very successful fashion. And he deserved your respect. And of all the people that were up on that panel, you were definitely the one to show respect. No doubt about that. But the problem is this. You lecture him because you're a sycophant, right? You are all in on helping Christopher Proudfoot. And for the life of me, you're not a foolish woman. We've known each other for a couple of years. You are definitely not a foolish woman. So I can't understand why you are spending time talking on the telephone with Christopher Proudfoot and why you are willing to chance your whole YouTube channel even on this man being innocent of anything. What is it that has got you pushed into being part of the inner circle? That's fairly worrisome. So one of the things about Granny's watching that I think she did that has put her now in a really precarious situation, because just ask Barry Morphew, just ask old Bear. One morning, Christopher Proudfoot's going to get up out of bed. He's going to brush his teeth and brush his hair, have him a cup of coffee, put his socks and his boots on. He's going to walk outside and get in his great big black truck. And he's going to drive down the road thinking, I think I may just pop in and say hello to my mom at the real estate office. And he's going to pull into that real estate office. And by the time his itty bitty feet fall down out of that big old truck and hit the ground, he's going to turn around and say, oi, 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 oi. Why am I surrounded by 15 law officers and they've all got their guns drawn? What's happening here? That day's going to come, Christopher. Just ask Barry Morphew. It happened to him. He was on his way to the gym. He's just going to go for a workout like he had done every single morning at the same place in the same little town at around 8 o'clock in the morning. And rather than going and working out, they caught him when he was away from his house and not yet at his destination. Basically, they're going to catch you, Christopher, in your most precarious moment where you don't have any place to run and hide, no one to help you. So you may want to be preparing for that, Christopher. So as Granny is going through and she's telling, she's chastising Aiden, and she's saying, how are you going to feel if these parents are innocent? How are you going to feel if you have to come out and apologize? Are you going to apologize? And Aiden says, I would feel terrible about it. I would totally make an apology, right? And then she says, well, what is that going to do then at that point? And do you know what Granny who's watching has done? She has outright said that Seth hurt Sebastian. She has outright accused Seth of disappearing Sebastian when she's in her most heated and frustrated moments. Now, if she's very controlled, as she is in this video, then she is really she sounds like she's being very rational, very logical, being very careful with the facts. But not when she gets comfortable and or angry with Brittany J. Then the kind of, she gets a little loose with the anger towards Seth and the accusations, definitely the accusations towards Dog the Bounty Hunter and at night, right? She's very angry about all that. So you got to be careful about that. Granny's watching the white knighting and being the face, the mouthpiece for Christopher Proudfoot. You got to be careful about that, because if you reason with logic that people should keep an open mind and not form any conclusions about who may or may not be guilty, what's good for the goose has got to be good for the bigger goose. You can't just say Christopher Proudfoot deserves that respect. You have to show that same exact respect to Seth, the father. And I'll say it again, of all the actors that were in Sebastian's life, Seth is the only one that seems to really give a damn that his son is gone. I don't know if Art of the Crime is still with me. I think she is. I think she just has her microphone turned off. You're muted, Art. Artsy fartsy. Unmute for a minute. I want to ask you a question.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Sunshine says, man, they must have some bad weed in that town. They're all nuts. Sunshine, that was not nice, girl. All right. So of all the stuff that I've said, and you've already learned a lot about like the big facts of what happened to Sebastian. Has there been anything that I've said that is sort of surprising, something you didn't know about?
Honestly, just that there's this much controversy surrounding it with the different creators on YouTube.
Girl, it is like a civil war.
Yeah, it's what it seems like.
It is really, I think this is the most controversial case that I've done ever since I came to YouTube and started doing these silly videos. This is the big one, I think.
Well, what do you think both sides can agree on?
Oh, that's a good question. What can they each agree on?
Like, what can you and what is this? Her name, Queen Bee? Is this who? What could you and Queen Bee?
I affectionately call her Beelzebub. Okay.
Okay, so this might be a hard question. What do you think you two could agree upon about this case? That's a hard question, huh?
Oh boy, and you know me too, because I can usually come up with an answer pretty fast. So
I know, that's why I thought you'd be able to.
Yeah, I think me and Queen Bee could agree that I think Queen Bee would agree with me, and I would agree with her that Sebastian was not treated well.
Okay.
I think we both look at this and we kind of see Sebastian and we think this is really a shame. he was almost like invisible. The adults in his life sort of took over through all this nonsense. Queen Blunt, Marlena, that was not nice.
Because to me it kind of sounds like you guys feel like the dad Seth, maybe in his past he had issues just like everybody, but now he
Yeah.
really loved his son and wouldn't have hurt his son, but maybe that Christopher Proudfoot potentially did. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's 100% what I'm saying. And I think that Seth's behavior ever since Sebastian went missing, Seth's behavior has been exactly what you would expect from the parent of a missing kid. Like when you listen to him in the earlier stages, and then, he's gone through different iterations, but even who he is today, you can see that his behavior is logical considering all that he's been through with this missing child. Christopher Proudfoot, on the other hand, he and Katie, there is nothing logical about what they've done. Well, yeah, exactly, Ginger. So one of the big things with Seth is that Seth talks about Sebastian like he's going to be coming home. Like he has hope that everything's going to work out and they're going to find Sebastian and everything will be okay. That he's okay, right? Maybe he's living with a family member, or maybe he's at a school for kids on the spectrum. Seth has these ideas that somehow he explains, he kind of describes or envisions a situation that would say Sebastian is safe. Whereas Christopher Proudfoot, about the second or third day after Sebastian went missing, Christopher Proudfoot asked Seth, he said, "What are you going to do if this thing goes south?" Seth said, "What do you mean?" He said, "What if this thing goes south and Sebastian is dead?" Really, Christopher? 3 days, a 15-year-old boy is missing 3 days, and you're already suggesting to the father to prepare himself that the boy is dead? That is not natural. A parent can't even, oh no, I got that wrong. Lolo said it was like 3 or 4 hours on the day he went missing. Oh my gosh. The other part of that, yeah, Marlena says there are so many professionals. I mean, we've got professional FBI agents, Jennifer Coffindaffer. We have a forensic psychologist, Dr. John. We have attorneys, and they've all weighed in on this, and they're all saying the same thing, that the behavior of Katie and Christopher Proudfoot is not normal. Yeah, see, they're telling me that was actually said on the same day. Wow. I didn't realize it was on the same day. So that definitely, it is expected that a parent is not going to want to envision or admit that their child might be dead. That is not what parents do that have a missing kid. And yet this clown was saying to Seth on the day that he went missing, "What are you going to do if this goes south and Sebastian is dead?" That's it. That sounds bad, doesn't it? That's only one. You're muted again. That's only one piece of. That's only one behavior that people go, "Yeah, you ain't right, dude. That's not right. That's not right." All right. So shall we continue?
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Then admit that a lot of what she stated could not be backed up. An example being if the Bower Sox, live streams via Facebook, threatening her life.
Art of the crime, you're going to hear them talking about the Bower Sox. Mama Bower Sox, Mama Boom Boom, that is Christopher Proudfoot's mother. And okay. Mama Boom Boom, she literally kidnapped an infant baby who was nursing from her loving mother, literally used the court system to steal a baby because she wanted to raise a little girl.
Oh.
She's a peach of a grandma, trust me. Thankfully, they were able to get a good attorney and a different judge, and they were able to get the baby back. And as soon as they got the baby back, they were on the road to New Mexico to run away from these this terrible family.
Wow.
Yeah.
If you mean it's
awful.
Me in and out of court custody, she doesn't have that screen recorded ready to hand over to you.
Well,
so sorry, go ahead.
That's so in the documentary, what I said was a lot of this needs to be corroborated by police before it is basically. I didn't say
before it's given to the public, right?
Well, no. What I said was that I think a lot of what Nina is saying should be looked at by the police, because I'm not the one who put it out in the public. Nina did.
No, you actually did, because a lot of that didn't come from Nina. It came from you this time.
No.
And again, Granny's watching. You're just dead wrong here. You're completely like you are engaging in mental gymnastics. You're doing, you're taking such liberties that you're like a can of earthworms where your morality and ethics are concerned. You're trying to claim that Aiden Mattis, the Lore Lodge, that he is responsible for Nina's abuse. No. That'd be your boy, Christopher. Christopher is the one who badly traumatized Nina. We see the evidence of the trauma in that interview. And Art of the Crime, I'll show you the interview where the ex-wife of Christopher Proudfoot is describing what she went through being married to him, and not only the emotional abuse that he subjected she and her children to, but physical abuse against small children, like backhanding a little kid and then saying, oh, well, it's time for him to man up.
Oh, and there's CPS reports of all that.
Yes, there are 2 CPS reports in the state of New Mexico concerning the little girl and the little boy. So this dude, only dude I've ever known in my whole life that had 7 CPS, not reports, investigations, full-blown investigations, 7 in 2 years. The guy is a walking time bomb. He is wound so tight. His anger is so explosive that, frankly, I don't think he possesses the ability to control himself when he is angry. I think he just explodes and then he sorts out the damage later.
It came directly from her interview with, I think the guy's name was Trevor.
Did you see the video I played the other day of Nina by chance, where she's laughing about Chris calling her in a panic, and she says, Jesus Christ, Chris, you lost a whole child. Thanks for ruining our family vacation.
And Granny's watching. Again, this is so inconsistent with what I know of you, right? A couple of years I've been watching you. I've been on your panel. We've talked. We like each other. This is so inconsistent with what I know about you. You think that this woman, you saw the interview, you saw her weeping, not just tearful. I mean, she was ugly crying, right? She had snot falling out of her nose. You watch this video where she recounts her baby was kidnapped by this joker. They have law enforcement in their pocket. This is the definition of the good old boys club. You know, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. He literally stole her infant who was nursing because his mommy wanted to raise her, the baby. So you watch this and you are not moved to protect this woman. You're not moved to, wow, I don't know what kind of nightmare this poor lady has been through, but she should be protected at all costs. And so should every other woman that ever comes in contact with Christopher Proudfoot. The dude must be a monster, right? you choose to ignore that, where Nina is literally falling to pieces as she talks about her child being backhanded by this jerk. But you would choose to accept this little video clip that you're about to show, and you think that this reflects poorly on Nina, when really it's showing that Nina is she's disgusted by Christopher Proudfoot, and she's trying to protect her own children from this jerk. You got a weird way of looking at this case.
No, I mostly went by transcripts. To just.
And can you go back and answer my question on like what facts that you have?
Oh my God, there's so many facts. Put your teeth in, please.
Didn't really know anything about the case at the time. All of that got, kind of wrapped up into here. When we come through here we go.
This is his script that he wrote for his documentary.
Trying to find specifics.
He's showing it, that he has the citations.
But
Aiden, I have one logical question for you.
Sure, go for it.
We're from the same area, so I understand you're not really being argumentative the way we speak. So I'm going to defend you on that. I see people in the chat saying he's raising his voice. That's the way we speak.
You know why he's raising his voice? He's raising his voice because the magical unicorn and cheesy Wheezy, who has no teeth, because they were screaming at him. They would ask him a question, and then as he would begin to answer, they would just keep talking over him. So he was trying to answer a question. He was trying to be a part of the conversation. All they wanted to do was just to show that they had no interest in allowing him to speak.
And we're just the area stuff.
Yeah. But the one thing you did mention is that given that Chris would want custody of his daughter, would be a reason, right, to kind of maybe perhaps get rid of Sebastian. But wouldn't that ruin your chances? Like, wouldn't that put a big, wait a minute, from a perspective of the court, you have a child that is missing under your care. Don't you think that the police, the judge, the police, everything were involved in this custody case before they went and endangered another child's life?
I would like to believe the justice system works properly, but I think we can all observe that it doesn't.
But this is over in a whole different, so we can't say like it's Sumner County being corrupt at this point because it's not in their jurisdiction, right?
Well, that's the thing with New Mexico, is that they might not be able to go in and do the things that they need to do in Tennessee to check in. And if Sumner County isn't willing to turn things over, then New Mexico can't do anything about it.
See, I strongly disagree because I think just the logic part of it, if like you mentioned, Sebastian was set to go live with Seth, why not just allow that to take place and then they can have their happily ever after family with their daughter?
Okay, so art of the crime. So this conversation that they're having is going to motive, correct? So some people, first of all, you ask yourself, okay, well, let's assume that Christopher Proudfoot or Katie did do something and cause this disappearance. Why would they want to do that? Like, what's the point of it, right?
Right.
So Granny's Watching is saying, okay, let me start right here. It came out a couple of months after Sebastian went missing. It came out that there actually had indeed been an agreement between Katie, Christopher, and Seth that at the end of the school year, that Sebastian would be living at home with mom and Christopher, and he would begin to live full-time with Seth at his house, right? And it was only a month or so. So it wasn't like a long period of waiting until it was time for Sebastian to actually formally move in with Seth. So that brought up the question, okay, well, so Christopher Proudfoot is trying to get custody of the baby so that he can bring the baby to live in Tennessee, and Katie, I guess, would be the new mom of the baby. But that he did not allow Sebastian to be around the baby Faith. So that would make sense that he was trying to get Sebastian out of the house which would then open the door to allowing Faith, the baby, to come live with he and Katie. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so Faith is his child from a different marriage?
Yes, from a marriage to Nina, wife number 4.
Okay.
Okay. So that makes sense. It's logical. I did a video that talks about like 4 or 5 months ago that uses Greek mythology to talk about Katie from the perspective that she's angry. She's an angry woman because she's invisible. No one will ever listen to her. She's completely dependent on everyone else. And so with this solution that Sebastian goes to live with Seth, her ex-husband, and then Faith comes to live with Chris, and she becomes the caretaker of the baby without her own child. She is lost in the mix. Everybody wins except for Katie. She has to give up her own child in order to be mother to the baby. Seth wins because he's happily got his kid. Christopher wins because he's happily got his kid. The only one who loses in this is Katie, right? And the fact that, according to this Greek mythology, Katie would have been furious about that. She would have been angry that everyone took from her. No one asked her. Nobody cared about her position, giving up her only child. And that maybe Sebastian was her sacrificial lamb because of this terrible situation. And that by sacrificing Sebastian, she denies both Seth and Christopher from getting what they want. Now, it's dark and spooky. That's a kind of a sad idea, right? But it might explain some of her behavior, and it may explain some of Christopher's kind of really, really out of control fury. And in fact, when Sebastian went missing, Christopher's life got dramatically more complicated, and he is probably now at this point lost all hope of ever getting custody of Faith. So what you're about to see next, and this is something that I continue to think about, is motive. Like, why would they each do this? Let's say if Seth did it, what could he potentially win from it? And if Katie did it, what could she potentially win? And if Christopher did it, what could he potentially win? So I don't know yet. But maybe that's something that we could talk more about. Maybe you've got some ideas will jump out at you in regard to motive for any of these three. Because at this point, we really don't know who it was that did it. We kind of think we know who the logical choice is. But, with motive, maybe trying to even think is it possible maybe Seth even had a motive? So
I'm not sure about motive, but it does seem like it would have to be really thought out to have no evidence like it has.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure why, but
Exactly.
It seems like it would have to be pretty well planned.
I mean, there's nothing.
Because it's just, yeah, that's very odd.
It is. You know what they did? The morning. Okay, so Sebastian goes missing. Katie wakes up at around 6, realizes he's gone. By 7:30, the neighborhood's crawling with cops, right? I mean, it was fast. It was quick. Do you know that morning they had 2 bloodhounds? 2. They had 2 bloodhounds. They started on the porch, and neither of those bloodhounds picked up a single scent. So there you go. You say, well, there's, nothing had to been planned because they left no evidence, no sign of anything, including normal human scent. Those dogs didn't even pick up would have just been, the scent of the homeowners coming and going. So something very strange about the whole thing. In my opinion, Katie knew she would have to start acting at 6:20, knowing the night before it went down. Interesting. Resentment could cause a fury big enough to harm without any real motive. Agree, Patricia. Totally agree. Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
also it could be, I mean, do you think it could have been accidental? Like, do you think there could have been an issue and there was some sort of squabble between Christopher and Sebastian, and maybe he didn't necessarily mean to kill him, but it just got out of hand? And
That's actually my belief. I actually think that that's exactly what happened, that there was a showdown. So here's another part I don't think you've heard about yet. So Christopher Proudfoot, last time that he was home at his house was February the 2nd. So he had been, many people believe that he was ordered not to be around Sebastian because of this open investigation from January. One of his friends, Stephen Crabtree, let it slip that Christopher Proudfoot has an apartment there in the town where he's got this big, beautiful $600,000 house. So what I think was happening, perhaps what I can envision, this is purely speculation on my part, only just speculation. What I kind of envision is that on the weekends when he would get off work, he was working in Nashville or maybe Memphis. He would make the 3-hour drive back home. He would stay in the apartment because he couldn't go to his house because he had been court ordered to stay away from Sebastian. So he would be in the apartment, and that had been going on for a month. Last time he was in his house was February 2nd. So what I think may have happened, perhaps he had a little too much to drink, right? He went over to the house and he and Katie, maybe they had an argument. Maybe they were getting along great and fine and dandy, but he got drunk and then he kind of said, "Oh, you little asshole, it's your fault. I'm not allowed to be at my house." Just turned into, a jerk. And Sebastian actually has a particular type of brain damage. He's got a condition that if he were to take even a slight blow to the head, that he could actually bleed out and die, right? So he lives sort of a really protected life to avoid any kind of physical blow. So I can almost kind of see where maybe he would push past Sebastian in frustration, or maybe even push Sebastian and he tumbled backward and hit his head on the wall. Something kind of like that. Not that it was intentional, but that it was just sort of like one of those horrible moments in time that you can't ever change. And then once it happened, then they started the cover up. I think that to me makes more sense than to actually envision Christopher Proudfoot and his wife planning out the demise of this 15-year-old. That is
Right.
very dark and spooky.
Yeah. But so what are opposing theories? What do other people believe might have happened?
Well, so you're about to hear this woman, Granny's watching. Her belief is she thinks that perhaps Sebastian did run away, that he did walk out. Maybe he was lured by someone on the internet, that he met up with someone. And the overwhelming problem with that is that it has been 10 months and there is virtually zero evidence of Sebastian anywhere. like he's simply nowhere. And that's not what happens to runaways. Runaways leave evidence behind. People see them. Their faces get recorded on security cameras.
Well, I have another like question like to go off of that. Would it be possible because there was this kind of like custody dispute that maybe Seth hid him, or
Maybe.
he's being hidden somewhere, or I don't know.
And I do think that there was another group of people that seemed like a possibility, because I do think it's pretty clear Seth loves Sebastian. Like it's palpable. You can tell he does love his child. And Christopher Proudfoot is quite a overbearing person. He's really in your face and rude. And I could see where someone like Seth would feel frustrated trying to deal with Christopher, and that maybe he would make the decision that it was really safe in terms of keeping his son safe, that it would be easier to take him and hide him with a friend or hide him with a family member than it would be to try to reason with Christopher and get him to quit mistreating the boy, you know. So,
well, what do you think about the Texas Roadhouse video where she's like looking around, like looking for somebody?
Right. So Jennifer Coffindaffer is a retired FBI agent, and she has seen the whole video, right? So the public just got to see a little bit of it, but she has seen the whole thing. And at the very end, when Katie's scanning the restaurant, like she's looking for something or someone, when she's scanning and she gets all the way over to the left and freezes, she actually is smiling at someone. Like you can see it on her face, clear as day. She is smiling at someone. So there was rumor, I guess, at the beginning of this, there were some people that were claiming that Katie was having an affair with a man that lived in her neighborhood, who was also on the police force. So naturally I thought, okay, well, maybe he was there at the restaurant at the same time, and they kind of like prearranged, hey, come Texas Roadhouse, me and Sebastian are going to be there. You know, we can't talk, but it'd be good to see you, right? And that they would both be there at the same time. I thought about that for a long time. And then when Stephen Crabtree let the information slip that Christopher has an apartment, then I thought, well, what if it's Christopher Proudfoot that's there at the Texas Roadhouse? Is that who she was smiling at? Is that who she was making contact with? And at this point, the only person that I know that would know that, other than the cops, would be Jennifer Coffindaffer, because she was able to see the whole video. But she said there is someone there back to Katie's left, who she does make eye contact with. And it looks like that person is watching her and Sebastian through the whole meal. Like he rarely takes his eyes off of them. So I thought that is very interesting, right? That is very curious. So whether it's a person that nobody knows and therefore a potential kidnapper, or it was an affair partner, or even Christopher Proudfoot himself, who just wanted to try to be close to his family, I don't know. But I do think that it is really interesting that Coffindaffer verified there is someone there at that restaurant that does seem to have a lot of interest in Sebastian and Katie. So I think that's interesting.
Right.
Hey, Tony Mathis, you have to remember that Seth didn't know that he was being abused. Yeah, and I said that at the beginning. So Tony Mathis, Art of Crime, Tony Mathis is the spokesperson for Seth Rogers, for Sebastian's dad. So I said that at the beginning of the video, Tony, that that somehow, which I certainly cannot figure this out because this is very abnormal, somehow Katie was able to keep those CPS investigations away from Seth. I don't know how they were able to do that, unless there may have been a law enforcement person that was willing to kind of shove it to the bottom of the stack, and he therefore missed his rightful notifications. So yeah, totally agree. The father had no idea what Sebastian was living through, which is awful. Until after he was already gone missing, he hired an attorney and got his hands on the records. And then after he got the records, Seth came out and said that his son needed a restraining order against those two psychopaths that he was living with. How about that? That is a very powerful statement, isn't it? Your mic is muted again.
Oh,
It's
sorry.
okay. It's okay. It's an art form, my dear.
I know.
Yeah. So how about that nightmare that your child goes missing, and then you have to go fight in court to get the documents, and when you finally get them, you see 5 investigations where your child is being brutalized by the 2 people that he lives with.
Right. And did there were no neighbors that like said that, or like no other accounts of it?
Well, so that is interesting, because I don't think the neighbors would have known of Seth, right? Because Seth lives like about an hour away. He works in a different city, the whole 9 yards. But tragically, what I believe is tragically, there is a neighbor who has come forward. He has spoken with the police, and he has also spoken with some of the public. He said that he witnessed out in their yard that Christopher was raging against Sebastian, or maybe he's just raging in general. We've all seen Christopher at work. He was raging, and Christopher yells at Katie, "Hey, come back here and get your R word." Begins with R, ends with ARD. Yeah. I mean, how brutal is that? Truly. Yeah. It's unforgivable to use such term. Absolutely unforgivable. But that he yells, broad daylight, the neighbor's there, hears the whole thing, and he yells at Katie and says, "Hey, come back and get your R word." And that when he said it, Sebastian fell to the ground and began to sob. And Katie came, of course, and got Sebastian and took him back in the house. So, yeah, to answer your question, yes, there are eyewitnesses to what is surely emotional and verbal abuse. I mean, I would perhaps even worse than that. But I can't, when I heard Seth make the statement that the only people that needed a restraining order was his son, and that his son needed a restraining order against those 2 psychopaths, that is a direct quote. Now, what kind of behavior does it take for someone to name another person a psychopath? It's the most egregious behavior, right? I think we lost you again.
Oh no, here I am.
Sorry. Okay, that's all right.
Yeah, that's not just typical like people going through divorce talk.
Oh yeah, that's the worst.
It's a very strong opinion.
So strong, and it's a word that conveys something menacing, something dark and kind of otherworldly, so that the violence is so creepy and sick that it's beyond human, right? If you call somebody a psychopath, it's suggesting treatment that's beyond the way one human would treat another human.
Right, which would align with the theory that Chris gave Katie an ultimatum. That's a pretty dark thing to think about.
So that is That is one of the, so you're referring to the possibility. Well, describe it to me when you say that there was an ultimatum.
This is like what Marlena said. I think Chris gave Katie an ultimatum because he wanted Sebastian out and Faith in.
Yes.
Or Chris was afraid of what Sebastian would testify against him regarding the CPS cases.
And that actually is another potential motive, that the case with Faith, that was going to be going to trial. I think it was supposed to go to trial in February, if I remember correctly. And that there is I think Laura Lodge, Aiden Mattis, this was one of his comments that he made too. Maybe there was that fear that Sebastian was actually going to be called to testify. And if that were the case, then 5 investigations. The most recent outcry was in January, just weeks before he went missing. That is a good thought. Good
Yeah, and
theory.
it's not like victim intimidation and trying to get rid of witnesses for court case. That's not like a new idea.
No,
That wouldn't be surprising if that happened.
The mob has been doing that a long time, right?
Right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
yeah, I even did a video sort of asserting that Christopher Proudfoot is mafiosa for the cornbread mafia.
that's good and very accurate.
Yeah, come say something to me, Christopher. Come on, big guy. Yeah, we got to taunt him a little bit. He's a guy. He's a little bitty guy that drives a great big old truck.
Oh, well, that, you're overcompensating.
Exactly. He's got to stand. He's got to carry a 5-gallon bucket around with him, so he's got something to stand on when he puffs out his chest. Right. And it's like a big shot, right? He ruffles up his feathers, and sings cock-a-doodle-doo, but he's got to stand on that bucket to get up there where everybody else is.
I wonder, what are some other, there have been other cases where they believe the child was missing for quite a while before they discovered a body or anything. Like,
say that again?
Like, what are some other cases where the child was, missing and it took a while? Because it's been about like a year now since he's been missing, right? So, and
he's 10 months, a little over.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're actually starting the 11th month. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's Summer Wells. This is kind of eerie. There's Summer Wells. She's another child that went missing without a trace. And get this, she's from a place that's about 3 hours away from where Sebastian's from. She's from
is that
Tennessee.
why the person in the chat said something about the weed there?
Maybe, yeah, maybe. Cornbread Mafia, that was that was what made them a thing. That's what put them on the map, is they were the largest domestic marijuana distributor that, in history. So, yeah. Now it's all legal, so they're out of business. No, I think they're doing meth now. So they gave up on weed and graduated to the big boys.
So
yeah.
You said there was one theory that Sebastian potentially met somebody online, but wouldn't he have been, being special needs, would his parents have been looking at his online stuff? Is there a digital footprint of him chatting with people online, or does he have socials or anything like that?
I think it's fair to say that if there is a digital footprint that there was activity online, that has not been made public.
I see.
They did collect phones, video games from both Seth's house as well as the Proudfoot home. Christopher Proudfoot was, bragging or being really forceful about how, if we don't give him, internet access at our house, yada, yada, yada. I think he did have a bit of access at Seth's house because he was playing video games. However, he was playing with, when he played video games, he was playing under Seth's account. So it was, Seth would be able to see if anybody was communicating with him, right? Like my account is Doculus Prime.
Right.
So that would be like if someone wanted to use my headset and play, and I just let them play under my account Doculus Prime, nobody would know that it wasn't me.
I see.
So he was playing under his dad's account. I don't know. Maybe Tony's still in here. Let me look see if Tony's still in here. Aiden's Lodge Maiden, welcome. Friend of Aiden. Christopher Proudfoot will go on Laura. I don't believe he'll ever go on Laura Lodge.
This person said that there are actually 2 cases in Texas. The one went missing in 2016, body found in 2019 at the lake that had been searched multiple times. So maybe there's still a chance he could be found. Wasn't there something about a retention pond?
Yeah, that, you know what? That is a whole other. Is Tony still in the chat? Is there any indication that you guys know of that there's any kind of a digital footprint, or was that's something cops have not mentioned to you guys? Hey, Alessia, good to see you. Zoots and boots. Yeah, so the retention pond. So there is, okay, very nice. All right, so Tony says that there was some digital footprint, but we don't really know. Oh, no, there's not. Okay, no, there's not a digital footprint, right? Okay. The retention pond, this boy never left that house on his own 2 feet. That's why he did not need his shoes. I mean, I think 2 bloodhounds on the front porch and they don't pick up a scent. I think we know how Sebastian, I think all of the family members were leaving from the garage.
But did they not pick up a scent by the pond?
So one of the, I think there were 2 of these dogs, but Max.
Yeah, Max. He found bare footprints, right?
Yeah, he seemed to pick up a scent, but he did not have Sebastian's scent. So he's just he's trained to just follow the strongest, newest scent that there is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he tracks not from the Proudfoot home, but he picks up the scent somewhere between the Proudfoot home and the new construction where the retaining pond was. And there's some argument about whether he's actually tracking or he's not tracking. And I don't know what the final determination is of that. He could have been following someone that was carrying a chicken sandwich, right? Because you don't know what scent he had. He wasn't a scent. He didn't have a scent article that he was pacing.
Right.
So he did seem to trace up to the retention pond, and I think there were reports that the dog jumped into the pond in the water. The water was not very deep; it was only a few feet deep. There were some reports that he jumped in. Later on, that seemed to get walked back, so there's much confusion about that. Max probably picked up either Christopher or Katie's scent, maybe, yeah. There also, if you listen to the police recordings, the dispatch recordings from that morning, you hear a couple of the deputies saying, I've got footprints here. And then someone says, well, is it bare feet or is it shoes? And then it kind of gets a little garbled. And then there's like, no, that's not him. It's too big. But you can't really hear him name like a shoe size, right? But then it does seem that there's at least one set of bare footprints because they say, yeah, he really dug his feet in. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Right. See, that's what I thought too, especially because he didn't have his shoes on. But then everybody I see is saying that there's no way he walked out of the house.
Yes. So let me see what Tony said here. I missed it. I don't want to, if I said something wrong, I want to correct it. I don't. He was not lured out of the home. Okay, so that comes from Tony. He was not lured from the home. Yeah, Tony. So we were just talking about like the different potential motives that people had at some point or another brought up, and that being, I kind of think, doesn't that remain like the favorite choice of Cluminati, right?
Hey,
Isn't
this says the police dogs are not really following scent, they are following ground disruption. Is that true?
well, there's different types of dogs that they're tracking differently.
Mm.
None of the dogs that arrived there early were provided a scent, so they weren't looking for Sebastian's scent specifically.
So they were looking for ground disrupt.
Yes. Yeah.
Wait, so Tony said you can't say the boy had no internet access in your home, but then expect people to believe he was lured out.
Right? I mean, everybody, the Christopher Proudfoot fan club, they want to scream and yell about logic and being logical and being rational. But what about that problem right there, Tony? Exactly the point. They're only, when you try to talk about a CPS case from January of 2024, literal weeks before Sebastian goes missing, then their response is, yeah, but what about 10 years ago during a really bad divorce, Katie made an accusation that Seth did XYZ. And you're like, yeah, it was a bad divorce. Divorces are bad. And sometimes people behave badly, or sometimes people lie about the other person. It's probably better to judge what has happened in the past 2 years and worry less about what may have happened 10 years ago. So again, that lack of rational, they're not really problem solving well. They just want to say, oh, I don't like Seth, so therefore I'm going to stand up for Christopher Proudfoot with the pretty house. And if you try to reason with me with actual logic, then I'm just going to take that problem-solving approach where I'm just going to scream and yell at you and call you names and try to shame you, and maybe you'll leave me alone. They have no interest at all in actually thinking about the facts that what we know, right? The judge threw out Katie's claims. Exactly, Sandy T. But they don't mind, they don't care. They have I stand by what I said. I believe that the likes of Cluminati, Granny's watching at this point, which I hate that Granny's done this to herself. But I think Cluminati and Cletus, Granny's watching, Stephen Crabtree, I think these people may find themselves in legal jeopardy before this is over, because they've put themselves in a position where they're almost interfering with an investigation. Here's what I mean by that. Why is it that months after Sebastian's gone missing, everybody's looked, nobody knows where he is, now this group, Cletus, Cluminati, Stephen Crabtree, now they start going out into the woods and they're making these videos. But I'm feeling really uncomfortable when their private fixer, Stephen Fisher, when he comes out and he says, okay, everybody look at Bobby. Bobby and her sons are behaving suspiciously. I have had her teenage sons under surveillance. And then he ends with the coup de grace where he says, I'm looking at a camera that is actually in Bobby's backyard, looking directly toward the retention pond. And what I think is that we need a group that specializes in ground penetrating radar, because I believe that Sebastian was hiding over there in the construction site, that he fell asleep and one of the dump trucks dumped a load of construction dirt on him, and he's now buried right out there looking off Bobby's back porch. When I heard that, my blood went cold. I said, good God, this man has literally laid out a narrative that is terrifying. And it was done, in my opinion, it was done with a target on this innocent family in the neighborhood to try, once they uncover Sebastian, that they're going to look at Bobby, well, because Stephen Fisher has her family under surveillance. It's insanity. So it's very frightening.
Yeah, that is.
I'll tell you something else weird about this dude, Stephen Fisher. He was all wrapped up in the Kylie Rodney case. He actually was the one who told Adventures with Purpose not to search in that particular lake, to go to a different lake, that law enforcement divers had already searched and cleared this lake, right? And they're like, okay, well, I guess you know what you're talking about. So they leave and they go and dive another lake or two. And then they come back and they go, this is crazy, because our training tells us we start at the last known location. And the last known location was a phone ping from Kylie Rodney's phone, just right off the edge of the water, like right there on the boat ramp. And so they went back to that area, still SF investigator wanting to call sheriff's department to come and stop them from searching. And they're just like, you know what? Be quiet, dude. We're totally going to do this because we know how to do this. And within 35 minutes, they had found Kylie.
Oh, man.
And SF was right there with Kylie's father and grandfather. This dude, he comes slithering in. I don't know how he does it. He convinces people to believe in him. And then he's just a obstructor. He claims, listen to this, you're going to pick your jaw up off the ground. He claims that he charges $700 an hour, that he is the highest paid private detective. He charges $15,000 for a case.
Oh, that's
so far, all he's done, exactly, June. So far, all he's done in all these different cases is just obstruct, manipulate evidence. It's like he's engaging in psychological warfare that is designed to make people question the actual facts.
I wonder, but why? Why would he do that?
I think he's a fixer. I think he goes in and cleans
you think he's
up
getting paid to do those things?
Yeah, I think he's one of these guys who works for the rich and famous to clean up their messes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, hell, the United States Congress has a slush fund where they pay people off, women that are gonna, say, that was date rape, or you tried to force me, or they just pay them off and make them go away. These fixers are real people. Sometimes they're attorneys, sometimes they're private investigators, but they're definitely real.
Mm-hmm.
So
you think the Proudfoots hired them?
We do. We know that Christopher Proudfoot hired SF Investigates. We know
okay.
that.
Okay.
I'll tell you something else we know. Here's another eye opener. We also know that Dog the Bounty Hunter, that his organization with his attorneys and he's got lots of investigators. He's got a whole operation, right? He is volunteering his time to help Seth Rogers.
Wow.
Yeah. What does that tell you? Right?
Yeah.
Everyone is looking at this and seeing the details, and everyone is just feeling like, please uncover a way that Sebastian could still, that he's being hidden, that he's safe,
Right.
Because it looks Christopher Proudfoot, I think, is a bad dude. Yeah, SF, seriously fraudulent. Yes, Bobby, that is exactly accurate. So, all right, so I'm going to continue with this Queen Bee interview. This is Granny's watching, and she is taking issue with the young Aiden Mattis.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you instead risk your freedom, risk the chance of ever having custody or seeing your child again by making one vanish? I mean, logically, that doesn't make sense.
Because I have a feeling that part of that custody case was going to be bringing Sebastian in to testify.
There you go.
And if Sebastian testified, Chris would never get custody of Faith. Would never.
I would agree with you, given the fact that both Seth and Chris have stated that Sebastian over exaggerates and lies to authority in an attempt to get them both in trouble. Both men have said that, by the way.
Boom. And that, Granny's watching, is you at your absolute worst. We call that, Granny's watching, we call that victim blaming, where you take a human being who has been victimized or brutalized and you blame the bad behavior of others, you blame it on the victim. You make it like, oh, well, you were asking for that. You should have done something differently, and then Christopher Proudfoot would not have brutalized you. You willingly stepped right off into that mess, Grammy's watching. And you owe an apology to every man, woman, and child who has ever been victimized by anyone. This is the worst that you can do to someone who's been harmed. The very worst. So she says that, and this is probably the point where I became literally nauseated with Christopher Proudfoot and his BS. When he told this story that they were all sitting down to dinner and the CPS worker comes walking up and he says, "Oh, hey there, how are you? So good to see you, buddy. Come on in." That they're greeting each other like it's, old home week. Everybody brought a covered dish and they're all about to sit down and break bread together, right? He's acting like this is just nothing. But he lets it slip that this is the same CPS worker that showed up in the last accusation. And he kind of catches himself, he tries to cover it up. The way that he talks about, after the CPS worker leaves and they all sit down, he says that he looks at Sebastian and he says, he's laughing. He says to Sebastian, "See, I told you so." Now, you may say, well, what did that mean? That doesn't sound like anything. Well, probably what it means is this, that he has told Sebastian, it doesn't matter if you complain, if you tell your teachers that I'm mistreating you. It doesn't matter if the cops show up here because no one is ever going to believe you. Because that's the words of an abuser. That is what they say to control their victims.
Victim blaming isn't only unjust, it undermines your search for the truth.
Absolutely. The truth is inconsequential to the aggressor who cares only about their own power and control. They don't care about that. They invent their own truth, right?
Right. So by her doing that in that video, she's really just hindering the progress of anyone being able to find him.
Yeah, and I can't imagine, like, if you hear her tone, she almost it was almost like a machine gun, the way she started talking, like super fast, like she wasn't going to allow Aiden to bring logic in. Like she knew that what she was saying was completely inappropriate, but she didn't want to allow him to go, whoa, wait a minute. You're blaming Sebastian for the abuse that he was dealing with, that he was surviving? Listen to her again. It's terrible.
And that are available by request. That are available by.
This woman is crazy. sorry.
And then they are available for free for research purposes to anyone who would ask for them. I am happy to provide them.
I went too
The
far
college
back.
academic arena.
Fine. But
You're also authority back.
I am seeing the
But
Sumner
hold
County
on,
Sheriff's
excuse me.
Office be weirdly evasive, while the TBI is very direct, and the
I
FBI
totally
is
messed
involved,
up
but they're
the
not saying in
rewind
exactly what
video.
way.
What do you mean by weird?
Well,
Just it doesn't seem like everybody's on the same page.
Well, Aiden, would you admit that there's likely something they know that you don't?
It's entirely possible there's stuff that they know that I don't.
Would you admit that perhaps knowing all that information could give a drastic different outlook? And at that point, you've incited an audience by your conviction that these parents are guilty. If it came out that they weren't, do you realize the impact you have had?
So I went by transcripts.
Yeah, I get that.
And can you go back and answer my question on
No.
Mentioned Sebastian was set to go live with Seth. Why not just allow that to take place, and then they can have their happily ever after family with their daughter?
Mhm.
So why would you instead risk your freedom, risk the chance of ever having custody or seeing your child again by making one vanish? I mean, logically, that doesn't make sense.
Because I have a feeling that part of that custody case was going to be bringing Sebastian in to testify. And if
So
Sebastian
with his-
testified, Chris would never get custody of Faith. Would never.
I would agree with you, given the fact that both Seth and Chris have stated that Sebastian over exaggerates and lies to authority in an attempt to get them both in trouble. Both men have said that, by the way.
Okay.
So there she says, Sebastian is a liar, and Sebastian lies to try to get the parents in trouble.
Wow.
The reality, yeah, it's just a nightmare.
I mean,
Okay,
imagine if
so-
somebody was saying this about a rape victim.
Oh, well, I got to tell you something. And this is going to make you very angry when I say this. I'm just going to warn you to take a deep breath, use all your best relaxation skills. Okay.
Oh, man.
Yeah, get ready because this is a bad one. So you know how I was telling you about how the sheriff, the guy that was sheriff when Sebastian first went missing, about 3 months or so after Sebastian went missing, the sheriff dies of a freak accident. Like he just falls down in his rented cabin and hits his head on the floor and dies. Very unlikely, right?
Mhm.
Especially a log cabin where the floor is wood, not concrete or marble. So he just dies. Well, the guy that was going to be running against him in the election, he just sort of gets ushered in. He's crowned king. And suggestion is that is Christopher's little buddy. So the new sheriff is like kind of dialed in, right? And so suddenly the whole flavor of this thing seems to change. And now you've got this question of why was Seth not notified with all these CPS investigations? How were they able to keep it under the rug? And this dude that is now the sheriff, when he was questioned about rape, he calls it I'm going to get this wrong, y'all. He calls it a cuddle struggle.
Oh. That is disgusting.
That is psychopathic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Rape is a cuddle struggle? No, it's an act of aggression. It's violence. It's brutal.
That is sickening.
So it's a little bit, I'm going to tell you something. If I was ever thinking about, let's say, going to Nantahala, doing a little whitewater rafting, maybe on the Ocoee, I am not staying anywhere near this county.
Yeah.
Sumner County, I don't want these people anywhere near me, because if your sheriff is saying that a rape is a snuggle struggle, that is an area that women are not safe. And apparently teenagers are not safe either.
Yeah. Oh, man.
It's very disturbing. So now you see what I mean when I say it feels like the more you get into the depth of Sebastian's life and all the various influences that he was living with, you get this feeling that there was something wrong with the environment. The whole environment seems, I mean, it almost seems like a movie, doesn't it? The multiple plots that are within this entire story, it's just too much to be normal. There's got to be either some criminal element that's at play. There's something there to make this such a catastrophically dangerous environment for Sebastian.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
where were all the
isn't
adults?
Christopher a criminal? I mean, isn't there extensive files and documents that prove that he's done criminal activity?
Well, I don't think, maybe Tony is still here. I don't think he's got like he was in the Navy.
But I thought there were all these CPS reports against him.
He's
Is
got
that not criminal?
Yes, he definitely has 7 CPS investigations.
And then
he's got
Seth
5
has the one thing in his past.
Seth's got the one thing in his past, and there's some question, maybe, I don't know, maybe some marijuana or something 12 years, like years and years ago. Seth's been pretty clean. And for that matter, so is Christopher. Katie has got a very curious, Katie is a victim of a fairly horrible crime at the hands of her biological mother. It's a sick family. Christopher's mom, Mama Boom Boom, you like that? Yeah. So Christopher's mom and stepdad, they're really dark and scary people. They were it seems that they were at the heart of what happened with Faith and Nina. That this woman, this middle-aged woman, just decides, oh, look, it's a pretty little girl. I want her. And so they use the judge and the law enforcement to kidnap a baby. And they don't seem to have any recognition that what they did was evil. This baby was loved. She had a full family. She had a brother and a sister. She was a nursing infant.
Tony said, just talk to Seth. He never said that Sebastian exaggerated to authority figures.
Well, and that is what Granny's Watching is claiming to Lore Lodge, right? And I thought, why are they saying that? The only person that I remember that said that Sebastian would exaggerate was Christopher Proudfoot. Christopher Proudfoot said that. And he said that this was the night that CPS worker came to the house and all that happened, that he said that that Sebastian thought that he was going to lie to CPS and that they would kick Christopher out of the house. Who remembers that? If you guys remember that, put a 1 in the chat. That Sebastian thought that if he lied, that the CPS worker would kick Christopher out of the house. That's what he said. But I've never, ever, ever heard Seth say anything even remotely close. Well, there was one thing, something like something about maybe Sebastian saying that Dad was going to beat him or spank him or something. And so Seth took him home and said, beating is different than a spanking. And he showed him on one of the video games what a real beating was, that Sebastian had never been beat is what he was trying to show him. But that's not exaggerating in order to get someone in trouble. That was just, I'll tell you what happened with my brother. My brother had a little girl, and I think if I remember correctly, maybe she was like in kindergarten or maybe it was preschool. Anyway, she went to school, and somehow in the magic of, imagination, she tells her teachers or she tells one of the other kids or something that her dad ties them up and beats them or something like that. Well, then they had to call CPS because now that's the law. And so, you know, it was pretty embarrassing to have CPS show up at your house, but nobody had any bruises on them. There's no indication of a place to tie anybody. And so it all just turned out to be kind of a scary, oh, that was a bad experience. Kids sometimes say things playfully or not recognizing the context of their words. That is not the same thing as suggesting motive, as Christopher did by saying that Sebastian lied to CPS in order to get Christopher in trouble so that he would have to leave the house. That was oddly specific. And fast forward then 4 or 5 months, and we find out from Stephen Crabtree that Christopher Proudfoot has an apartment there in town and that he hasn't been in his house since February the 2nd. And someone did ask him the question, were you ordered to stay away from your home, from your house? He said, no, I was not. The accurate question would have been, is there a court order for you to stay away from Sebastian? That was probably the order, which is why Christopher Proudfoot ends up living in an apartment while Sebastian and Katie are in his big, pretty house. And I can just see him getting drunk one night and going home and say, nobody's going to tell me I can't be in my house. And I kind of think that's how it went.
Yeah.
So,
Well, hey, I'm going to have to hop off of here now.
Sure.
But thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Absolutely. You have been here for 2 hours.
I know.
I told you this was a very convoluted case.
Totally. Seems like
It's-
there's a lot to talk about. Maybe we can talk another time.
We will definitely talk another time. And I enjoyed talking with you. And thank you so much for coming up on channel.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
All right. You have a good evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Now then, how's everybody doing? True crime addict, absolutely. Sebastian won't be considered a liar. Not at all. I think we all know who the actual liar is, don't we? And I found it, you know, because I'm a weird psychologist, I found it so interesting that Christopher's words seem to run parallel to reality, doesn't it? Oh, he thought that he was going to lie to CPS and that they were going to make me leave my house. They were going to kick me out of my house. Well, that is very interesting, Christopher Proudfoot. Otherwise, how do you explain the fact that you seem to have an apartment? What was wrong with your perfectly good house? Why haven't you been in your house since February the 2nd? Why is that? So it does seem like he had a little bit of leakage there, if you know what I mean. Yes, Deception Detective is amazing. Love him so much. Yeah. Let's see. It has been stated. Okay. It's gross that he had to get a lawyer to find out. It is so gross, Jules. Completely unacceptable. And I really hope that when Sebastian is found, I hope that Seth will sue the state of Tennessee over the CPS problem. I hope he will do that. Let's see. I believe power played a big role there. Just sitting in the bushes enjoying. Well, I'm glad you're here, Ginger Girl. Thank you for being here. Let's see. So was that fantastic weekend? I hope it is, Tony. On it, truly. The level, you know, one of the things that I'm kind of overwhelmed by when I let my brain go there, Christopher Proudfoot has victimized, attacked, shamed, and embarrassed so many people just since we even knew he existed for the past 10 months. Listening to him go on these podcasts screeching and screaming and yelling at people, including yelling at Seth. I don't even want to imagine the nightmare of being behind closed doors with that man. Can you imagine what he must be like in private if he's willing to get up on any number of podcasts and scream and yeah, let me make it real simple for you. Let me make it crystal clear. It's really, the guy he scares me. He's not okay, I don't think. So, okay, so let me go on. So I thought this was horrible comment that Granny's Watching made. Horrible, horrible comment. She absolutely is victim blaming. She is holding Sebastian responsible for the behavior of Christopher and Katie Proudfoot. That is, and look, Granny's Watching, there's going to come a day, girl, you are going to rue the day that you ever met Christopher Proudfoot. And here's the thing I'm really confused by. I'm confused by what is within you that you would listen to this man tell you that his truck was caught up in the geofencing net, and that was not enough to make you distance yourself from him. Why? It has to be that you don't understand how geofencing works. That has to be the explanation. Because the truth is this: they have no reason at all to get a geofence warrant for 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the 26th. Sebastian is already gone by the time the sun comes up. He's no longer in that neighborhood by the time the sun comes up. There is zero utility for the judge to say, yes, I'm happy to give you a warrant that you can invade the privacy of every person in the neighborhood at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They could collect nothing of evidentiary value, nothing. In order to do geofencing in a way that will stand up in a court of law that can be used as evidence, they've got to have the cops who are writing the warrant. They're going to make the request to the judge. Hey, judge, we think there was a crime committed. And we think that if we could get access to the digital information, the informatics on the trucks and the telephones and such, that if we could get access, we could identify the cars and the open networks that were in that exact location at the time that we believe the crime occurred. So when you're the law enforcement and you're making requests for a geofencing warrant, you have to name two elements. You have to have proof. You have to have evidence to show the judge. Number one, we believe a crime was committed. Here's our evidence for how there was a crime here. And the big one is number two, with a geofencing warrant, you must provide evidence for the time of the potential crime. No judge is going to sign an open-ended geofencing warrant. That would be like signing a blank check. If he or she did sign such a poor form, illegal warrant, I'll just call it what it is, an illegal warrant. If he did, then a defense attorney easily gets that thrown out before the trial ever starts. You have to name a time frame. And when you go to get your warrant, you go say, please, pretty please, judge, with a cherry on top, can I get nosy and look at the available trucks and cars and phones in this limited area at this limited time? You have to meet those two standards. You have to provide evidence. The only thing they have, listen, please hear me. The only thing they have to be used as evidence to say we want to invade someone's privacy, here's why, is that car in the road at 3:15 in the morning and maybe 2 flashlights, perhaps. But beyond a shadow of a doubt, there is definitely a car in the road behaving in an odd way that coincides directly with the location where a 15-year-old boy goes missing. That's it. So they'll say, okay, well, we've got this security footage. We know the car was there at around 3:15. We're asking for geofencing starting about 15 minutes before the time where you see the car, 15 minutes after the time you see the car. So, Judge, we only need a 30-minute time frame. That's all we need. We need about a 30-minute time frame sometime around midnight, because we have evidence that Katie was on the phone, and that's about the time that she went to sleep. So potentially that was when the crime happened. So we need a 30-minute time right at midnight on the 25th. And we want a 30-minute time frame around 3:15, because we've got evidence of this car in the neighborhood behaving strangely. That's how it's done. So what do you think? Christopher Proudfoot is hiding under a rock like a little fat roly-poly, just sitting in the dirt, waiting it out. The months are ticking by. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. And then everybody says, look, he is never going on another podcast again. He's got his emotions under control. He must have an attorney who's telling him, keep your mouth shut. All these things we're never going to hear from Christopher Proudfoot again, right up until the moment that Elevated Truth could not stand it anymore, and he had to speak what was true. Why are we only allowed to demonize Seth? Why can't we ask these same questions to Katie and Christopher? And man, when he started talking about that truck, about Christopher Proudfoot saying, yeah, those dumb MFers didn't even know it was my truck. When he started saying that, oh man, old Chrissy Wissy, he couldn't get up on that panel fast enough, could he? He jumped up there on that panel. He said, don't talk about my truck. Quit talking about my truck. And everybody thought, oh, he doesn't want Elevated Truth to tell all of us that, you know, he pretends to be a good guy when the cameras are rolling, but behind the scenes, he's a jackass. Elevated Truth said, Christopher Proudfoot's a liar. He says one thing face to face. He says something entirely different when he's out there talking to the public. And that really bothered Elevated Truth. But you know what was so interesting to me is that he didn't realize, as Elevated Truth was saying his truth, he didn't realize what was actually happening. He wasn't aware that he had just revealed they have Christopher Proudfoot. They got him. 3:15, his truck was there in the neighborhood. And what he said when he came up on that panel, screaming and yelling and acting like a fool, he said, don't you say anything about my truck. Don't you say anything about my truck. That was my truck at 1:00 in the afternoon when I arrived. Yeah, good try, Christopher. That is not the way a warrant for a geofencing net works. You're caught, buddy. Hook, line, and sinker. It's just a matter of time at this point, in my opinion. Deception Detective tore CP apart in the panel discussion. Which discussion was that? Hey, Ms. Lulu, how are you? He is a fool. Foolish. He's a deplorable. I believe the Texas Roadhouse video was to give someone a signal as to how close he was done to finish eating. Don't you make me pull my man card, Maurice. Barbula. He thinks he's convincing. He's a blowhard. He just tries to be stern and gruff and bully people. He uses fear and intimidation. He doesn't know any other way. And a lot of people have been, oh, did you say it at the same time, Moonlight? That's awesome. Yeah, Christopher Proudfoot uses intimidation and fear to force other people to do what he wants them to do. And so, there's an interesting phenomenon. People that are living a dishonest life, right? And the most common example that I can come up with is infidelity, right? Someone who's living a life where they are committing adultery. So they're living this day-to-day lifestyle where they are kind of in danger because they recognize at any moment they could be uncovered, and they've got to be careful about what they say so they don't get tripped up, and get caught in a lie. They're also looking over their shoulder, wondering if there may be a private investigator taking photographs and things like that. So people that are living in infidelity, they're curious people. They're willing to sustain a grand amount of discomfort, all for the privilege of destroying a person that they claim they love. It's a real special kind of bad person, right? What's so interesting with those people is this. When the spouse finally says, I think he must be or she must be up to no good. I kind of think my girlfriend or my wife or my boyfriend or my husband, I kind of think they're cheating on me. Sometimes they'll stay quiet, hire an investigator to get the goods. But other times they think, gosh, am I crazy? Like, why would I think that my wife or my husband was cheating on me? I think I'll try to talk this over with my mate and see if we can, maybe I'm just being crazy and, they'll just make me feel better about the whole thing. It'll be over. And so when that person, in a hesitating fashion says for the first time, I'm sorry to say this, but I'm feeling really uncomfortable. And I'm wondering, are you cheating on me or have you cheated? What do you think an innocent person would do? Like, think about it. If your mate came up and said, I'm feeling uncomfortable. I feel like maybe you're cheating, sneaking around. If you're not, if you're legitimately in your relationship, you have no desire to harm this person that you love, you would be completely, instantly concerned, right? You would instantly say, oh my gosh, why are you I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I promise you, the idea of me being with another person is not in my mind at all. I'm so happy to be with you. I love you. I love our life that we're sharing together. You would instantly go into a nurturing, caretaking mode, right? What do you think someone who is living a life of adultery, they are looking over their backs all the time. They are worrying all the time about leaving evidence behind. What do you think they do when the spouse lovingly says, I'm feeling worried? Is there anything I need to be worried about? Is there another person in your life? What do you think they do? You know what they do? They go, how dare you? I can't believe that you would ever say, what makes you think you can talk to me that way? You're a horrible person. I don't even know what I'm doing in a relationship with you. How could you question me? I am faithful. You are a bad person to accuse me. I don't even want to be around you. And then out they go, slamming the door behind them. Yep. That's what they do. Because the anger, the attacks, all of that is designed to do one thing, not clear the air. The one thing that it is designed to do is to stop communication. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to get tripped up in their lies. There's too much to keep track of. So it's better to get very loud and very big and derail the conversation. And what have we heard Christopher Proudfoot do time and time and time and time again on these various panels? The man acts like a cheating, adulterous husband who's just been confronted. And I got to say this too. It's kind of, I mean, sad. Aiden Mattis, the guy that does Lore Lodge, he goes up on Queen Bee's channel, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a train wreck. I wonder if he knows what he's getting into. And sure enough, as predicted, the magical unicorn and Cheesy Wheezy with no teeth and all the other magical buzzy bees over there, they immediately began screaming at Aiden. They weren't even letting him speak. It was just like, well, what about this? What about that? It was like a machine gun, wasn't it? It was like an automatic weapon. I mean, fully automatic. If we keep hurling insults at Aiden, if we keep asking questions in rapid fire succession, then in no way will he actually be able to communicate. So the whole bunch over there just acted like, adulterous spouses that were just like, I don't have any interest at all in real communication with this guy. So I felt really, really bad for Lore Lodge. But he definitely held his own, and they were definitely not prepared to have to deal with a really, intelligent human being. So it was nice experience for us, but I suspect it wasn't very nice for him. So how embarrassing how they treated Lore Lodge. It was so embarrassing. Castle, I don't even think they have the good sense to recognize just how silly they appeared to be. It was really something. They better leave my boy Aiden alone. Right, Lodge Maiden? I'm telling you. All right. Aiden handled that better than I would have. I would have told them to STFU or I don't answer the questions. True Crime Addict, how are you? So good to see you. Yeah, it was, but wasn't it good? It was so good to see him. Well, I hated, number one, that he was outnumbered. But it was really nice when he got up there and started actually communicating, just having a conversation with facts and information. I felt like the contrast between how absurd they are, their virtue signaling and, their made up nonsense, delusional state. The contrast between his logic and fact against their delusional thinking and their emotional outburst, it just made it so clear. It was such high contrast that you could really see how silly the whole thing was. Yeah. Cluminati and Cletus, they were a hoot, not in a good way hoot, but a bad way hoot, because they were speaking with such superiority, and yet they, haven't yet mastered the English language. So it just seemed kind of sad and, pointless how they were behaving. So would look like an angel compared to myself. Aiden was bamboozled by those fools. I think he knew exactly what they were. And their behavior is definitely juvenile zoots. I totally agree. Yes. And they are making a lot of noise, which is what the adulterous spouse does. They immediately, how dare you? I can't believe you would think that about me. I'm really hurt. I don't think I can stay in this relationship with you. This is hurt. You have put a knife in me. I can't stand this. And then they walk out the door, and there's zero communication that happens. Seth R. Rogers, we're so glad. Oh, is Seth in here? Welcome, Seth. Very nice to see you. I didn't see you come in. Are y'all sure? I didn't see him. Well, welcome, Seth. Very nice to have you. Okay, so we left Granny's watching in this mindless assault on Aiden, where she's saying, oh yeah, but Sebastian, all parents have said that Sebastian exaggerated against authority figures in order to get people in trouble. She's literally, in the purest definition of the term, she is victim blaming. And as my friend said, Art and Crime, as my friend said, to victim blame, that's shutting down communication. That's hiding true knowledge. When you start victim blaming, you are supporting the abuser. It's a mindless statement. Granny's watching. If you're here watching, hear me now. What part of this mindless idea, like who gave you this idea? The idea that you have Sebastian, 15-year-old kid, who's being brutalized by the people that are supposed to care for him. The CPS investigations are being hidden from the one parent that does love him. And so he's just trying to navigate this chaotic, painful, confusing, frightening mess. And you're claiming this high functioning kid, high functioning autism, that he has the type of brain that would allow him to be manipulative, that would allow him to lie and mislead people. You don't know anything about high functioning autism if you think that that's how those kids do, or young adults do. They don't deal with abstract ideas very well. So this idea that Sebastian would sit back and calculate, hey, I think even though A looks like A and B looks like B, I'm going to get with the lady from CPS and I'm going to lie and tell her that A is B and B is A, because if that's true, even though it's not true, if it were true, then stepdad would be kicked out of the house and hopefully arrested. That would never happen with Sebastian because his brain doesn't do that. His brain won't, his brain doesn't deny reality. People that are on the spectrum, high functioning, fact is fact. Reality is reality. And they don't do very well trying to envision a hypothetical. That is a very, very, very difficult cognitive exercise for these people to engage in. It's one of the reasons why they do really well, like with hard research, right? Because hard research is guided 100% by rules. We have rules that must be followed. And it doesn't matter how the research is laying out, how the data is falling. You still just, like a mechanical robot. You go through the rules each day, time and time again, until you've collected your total data set. So Granny's watching. I don't know where you came up with this idea where you willingly blame Sebastian for the brutal behavior that Christopher Proudfoot visited upon him, but shame on you, number one. And number two, before you speak with such authority on something, you might want to do some checking to find out if what you're saying is right or not. Because the facts are that Sebastian Rogers lives a rules-based life. He knows what things are. He believes what he sees, and he sees what he believes. And it's that clean and simple. So you accusing him of being manipulative and sadistic and selfish, you don't know anything about high-functioning autism. That is not who they are. That's who Christopher Proudfoot seems to be, but not what someone high-functioning on the spectrum would do. Not at all. All right. My grandson is on the spectrum and oppositional defiant. I'm honestly glad that he is defiant. Well, and that defiance may keep him safe, right? Lodge Maiden? Yeah. He can recognize abuse. He's smart. Absolutely. He knew exactly what abuse was. And he had the support of his teachers at school. That's another bit of fact and logic that seems to escape the Christopher Proudfoot fan club. If they don't want to believe Sebastian, the victim, if they don't want to believe Seth, the devoted father, Katie, the mother herself said that if Sebastian were to play sports or something like that, that his dad, talking about Seth, that his dad would be on the front row, that he would not miss a single performance. Do y'all remember that? So it's mindless that Granny's watching is trying. I mean, she's just like babbling, making things up that don't even match with the Christopher Proudfoot fan club comments. I called Marsha Blackburn and others every day. I wish she would get involved. She's a pretty powerful woman. If Seth had abused his son, like KP claims in court, Sebastian would have died. He had fluid in his brain. Seth did not. Oh, of course not. Yeah, no, that was the outcry that Katie made 10 years ago or 12 years ago. That was just a dirty, uncomfortable, unpleasant divorce. And people behave badly during divorces. It doesn't mean that there's, that's their personality style. Bubby says, Granny's watching. You are sick, should have no children around you. I'm concerned. Well, I'll tell you where I got really concerned. And Granny is, she can support whomever she believes in. But as soon as that information came out, that Christopher Proudfoot's truck was caught up in the geofencing net, the very minute that information came out, those people supporting Christopher Proudfoot should have just quietly faded into the bushes. It is mindless to me that these people are so short-sighted. They don't understand what actually happened on that live. They don't understand what it meant. So they get up there and they talk big and they have all these, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand. That geofencing warrant, Christopher Proudfoot, elevated truth. Christopher Proudfoot was not upset that you were claiming that he says one thing in public, he says something different behind the scenes. He doesn't care about that. He doesn't care if people don't like him. He likes that people find him scary. What'd he say? I'm brash, I'm bold, I'm an asshole. He likes it. He's bragging about being rude. What made him upset, Elevated Truth and Granny's Watching, is that he knows he's caught. They were not collecting data at 1:00 in the afternoon, and I'm certain of that, and here's why. Because the neighborhood was filled with police officers and firemen and locals that were searching for Sebastian. There would have been zero reason to do a geofencing net. Zero. All of those additional phones, all of those additional cars would have meant nothing. Nothing. You've got to know when the crime was happening. Then you look to see what kind of digital devices were there at the location of the crime at the time of the crime. Read the statutes. You don't have to believe me. Look up Tennessee law. You'll see what I'm telling you is accurate. Christopher Proudfoot knows that he's caught. But the Christopher Watts fan club doesn't seem to have the ability to comprehend this. Girl, Granny's Watching. If I were you, I would be distancing from that man so fast. You guys are going to get caught up in this legal quagmire, and you depending on what you may have or have not done, you may find yourself catching some charges. I worry about Stephen Crabtree, Cletus, and Cluminati. They may have already engaged in activities that could bring them some charges down. So truly, Granny's Watching. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you throwing it all on the line for the likes of Christopher Proudfoot? Do you think he would do that for you? Hell, he didn't give a damn about you. As soon as all this is put to rest, you are going to be nobody on the horizon with him. So why are you putting yourself in legal jeopardy for this coward? It's crazy, truly crazy. I agree with everything you say, Jules. You've given me a boost of hope today. I'm glad, Barb. Can Seth press charges against anyone that caused harm? Christopher, CPS, whoever failed him. I have said, Sunshine, that I have a deep, deep hope that Seth will sue the state of Tennessee. He's got to sue them for keeping that information about his son and these multiple CPS reports, investigations. He's got to hold them accountable. He's got to do that, because he's not the only one. There will be other families that have experienced this type of thing. So, it needs to be done to keep the children of Tennessee safe. Christopher Proudfoot said on Smiley's, he was in the house that night. He was interviewed by Smiley there. Lots to hear on Smiley's interview. He said he was in the house that night. He says that the last time he was in the house was February the 2nd, right, Bam Bam? Maybe I missed it. Maybe I need to go back and listen to that video. Yeah, Sandy. So Sandy brings up a really cool, this is true. I don't understand it. Maybe it's the criminal element. It does seem like there are people that they look at these cases, they find out who seems to look the most guilty, and then they start white knighting for them. They'll even form like a fan club around the person that looks most likely to be guilty. Happened with Christopher Watts, happened with Summer Wells, now with this one. And as far as I know, I'm the only human being on the North American continent that believes that Charlie Adelson was railroaded. I know. I got a lot of haters because of that. Woo! That Charlie Adelson group, man, they want him to be guilty, And they don't want you to dare use logic to show why he may not be guilty. All right. They think they have a trophy. Wait for when the shoe drops. Wait, what? Think he was slipping up and quickly changed the comment around. Yeah, Georgie, maybe. Conspiracy propaganda, business and counter argument. Was it Granny's watching or clip? Why do you want me to say that word, Sandy? Oh, Cluminati? I think that's what you mean. What was it? Granny's watching or Cluminati, who was a pen pal to Chris Watts prison? Please tell me that's a joke, Sandy. Is that a joke? Are they was Granny actually communicating with Chris Watts? That is gross. That man murdered little babies. He literally murdered 2 little toddler girls. Yuck. Who was it? Which one did it? Ooh. Aiden's Lodge Maiden. It said, Christopher Proudfoot thinks he has everyone in the palm of his tiny little hands. Or in the back end of that big old truck, right? I love my truck. It's right outside. Ain't got much love, but I sure got a ride. That's so funny. He did not say he was in the house. He slipped up and said, we would have heard him if he went out the window. Yeah, he did make the we reference multiple times. Yeah, I did hear that for sure. They do, Radmila. Glad I don't have to be around for that one. It is gross, Ginger. It's so gross. Jules, do you see anything psychologically by KP about the date he went missing? Oh, yeah, for sure, Scotty. Scotty Too Hottie. Love the name. Okay, hold on for just a second. Let me pull this up. Just a second. You guys just get you a Diet Coke, a fresh bottle of water, pull up a chair, visit for a moment, and I will be right with you. One moment, please. So I did a video, I think about 4 or 5 months ago. I'll have to find it, where I used Medea as the parallel to Katie, right? Because I was thinking about motivation. And so I used Medea as the model for presenting this challenge that Katie was facing, where she is forced to give up her children, like 1 to abortion and now Sebastian, that she is forced by men to give up her children, while Seth gets what he wants, which is his son, and Christopher gets what he wants, which is his daughter, and that it is only Katie who is forced by all the men in her life to give up anything that she loved. And she's pissed about it. So that video was done like 4 or 5 months ago. I'll find it and I'll post it on my community tab tomorrow in case any of you want to go back and watch it. All right. And yes, I had people angry with me and people were, screeching. And I was like, wait a minute, everybody relax. I'm just considering means, motive, opportunity for both Seth, Christopher, and Katie as well as extended grandparents. That's all. Please don't yell at me because I'm going to think about all of them. And I did. I presented a theory of motivation for each of these people. J for J was for one. What was she doing? I can see Granny doing that. Jules, do you see anything psychologically about the Dave's missing? Well, I think what that person meant was he slipped up and said we a lot in Smiley's interview. Yes, frogs. Yeah. Chris Watts is trash. Chris Watts is, I got to tell you, Chris Watts is a curious fellow. I made some people, I tend to make people mad. And, I'm a pleasant enough person. I'm not trying to make these people mad. I'm just trying to have a discussion, and they get mad at the way that I think about some of these cases. And I did a video this was Christopher Watts, and it was basically asking this question: is Christopher Watts a product of MK Ultra conditioning? Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. I didn't think it was that old, but it must be. Okay, let me look for it a different way. Chris Watts. Let's see what I did. Oh my goodness, what did I do with it? Show. Maybe it was a video? Oh, and everybody got so mad when I said that Christopher Watts was a primary psychopath. And they got so mad, the body language of psychopathy, people didn't like that either. Woo, those were the days. Those were the days, weren't they? Oh, shoot. What did I do with that video? Maybe it's under Christopher Watts. Strange. Maybe under community. No, I'll have to. Is this it? I don't think so. No, that's not it. I don't want to spend any more time looking for it. I'll look for it tomorrow. Maybe it's over here. Anyway, I can't find it right now. I'm kind of in a hurry, which messes it up, right? I make the case, perhaps Christopher Watts, that could be the product of MK Ultra conditioning. Because of the interview that they did in the prison, I showed how his personality changed. It was so bizarre. Like there's at one point, he's like a little boy, right? And then the next, he's talking about how he killed them. It's so crazy. Shoot, I wish I could find it. It wasn't a very long video. No. Chris watched Cash Cow. I don't think that was it. I don't remember. I'll find it before tomorrow because it was really interesting. Yeah, that's. I'll find it. Sorry about that, y'all. I thought I had just posted it not long ago with some edits, and I don't know if I deleted it or what. But I've got everything on an external hard drive. So, how many of you looked into the case of Lee Mongerson Gilly in Houston, Texas? That is going to be a fascinating case when it gets going. Now it's driving me insane. Okay, that's Christopher Proudfoot. That's not what I'm looking for. Psychological warfare. That was Christopher Proudfoot. Oh, well. That's so frustrating that I can't find that video. Shoot. Makes me so mad. I'm beginning to think that I actually deleted the video. Weird. Makes me so mad. All right. Well, I'm just going to yeah, I'll come back another day. Okay, we'll do that later. So frustrating. That's not it. Welcome to the Grand Illusion. Is that it right there? No, this is Thomas Matthew Crooks. It is for the show. Suddenly. All right. I don't know where it is. I got thousands of damn videos, and I thought that it was right here, and it's not. So, okay. Sorry, you guys. Can't find it. All right. So we are at 10:42, which is really not all that late, is it? So what should we do? Should I continue with the video that we were looking at? Let's see. The first video she mentioned about Katie Proudfoot contrasted to Medea. Thank you, Martian Planet Art. I appreciate you posting that link. You are a sweetheart. He is show poodles, and that is terrifying, right? You can, in Houston, Texas, you can be a millionaire and murder your PhD level wife, and they will simply give you a bond and let you walk free by the next afternoon. No questions asked. So he's out walking around, living it up. It is unbelievable. And to tell you the truth, I'm a little bit worried about covering the case because he's out walking around free. And I have a little bit of a smart aleck in me. And I might accidentally make him mad. You know what I mean? So it's probably better if I don't actually talk about him. But I can talk about Christopher Proudfoot. So let's continue.
With his, like you said, you claim to believe that he's very disabled. Do you think his testimony would have been that credible?
Well, no, I don't think he's very I think there was a misunderstanding about what I said.
And so now she's even saying, oh, if he gave testimony, it wouldn't be credible. Granny's watching. You owe Sebastian Rogers and his father, Seth, a grand apology. You were so off base. That was such a disgusting moment where you said you engaged in victim blaming, and then you went on to say that he wasn't credible. Shame on you. The real liars, the ones who lack credibility, is Christopher Proudfoot and Katie Proudfoot, and that is the fact.
Wait. Can I haven't had a chance to really ask questions.
I haven't either, but okay.
Just give me a moment.
An email or something.
Wait. Can I?
I'm going to get down, Beaton. That's all. I just would really like to speak to Aiden myself as well.
She wants to dominate.
I can do another like 20 or 30 minutes.
Okay. Well.
All right, go ahead, baby. Go ahead. As I said, go ahead and ask. Like, we'll do one each. Go ahead, Beaton, with yours first. Go ahead.
Go ahead, baby. Right. Go ahead. Let me give me another cigarette out in my mouth.
How are you going to be a neutral, storyteller if you hate the person? Like you said, you have hatred towards him, and then you proceeded to talk about his penis.
Now, B-Tim, simmer down. Simmer down, B-Tim. The day that I heard this interview, no, it wasn't an interview. The day I saw you guys acting like a bunch of Lord of the Flies children, that would have been the day that I said, #things I think I will never see. And that was the magical unicorn in public defending Christopher Proudfoot's penis.
That's not neutral.
Well, I mean, I think you make a fair point that it's not neutral.
I mean, is that really a true?
I don't think Aiden is neutral at this point because he's seen all that he can see in terms of facts and evidence and behaviors that Christopher Proudfoot himself has demonstrated in public for all the world to see. Those of us with logic, we're not neutral. Beat him. And we also don't need a fearless leader to tell us what to think. We can do that all by ourselves. You should try it sometime, B-Tim.
Has how investigator would investigate a true crime where they basically already have a narrative built in their head and say they hate someone?
Well, so that's the thing is I didn't start here. I didn't start off, I hate Chris. Mm-hmm. I got to, I hate Chris.
Have you ever spoken to Chris?
Oh my God. Granny. Try to understand this, Granny. When you go on a live panel and you scream and yell and react, you're demonstrating who you are to the entire world. Not just once, not just in the moment that you lose your temper, but forever. We have the ability to go back to these interviews time and time and time and time again and watch Christopher Proudfoot behaving badly as many times as we need to. How many times does a rational, logical, decent human being need to watch Christopher Proudfoot call Trish on Web Sleuths a web slut before you finally figure out, Granny's watching, Christopher Proudfoot is the bad guy. Everybody else are the good guys. I don't know why this is hard for you, Granny.
All right,
Truck drives a truck, or Seth drives a truck too. So all the little cronies that were laughing at that joke. Yeah. But we do say that. I mean, that is a thing we say. Like, people drive big trucks to compensate for their small. That is.
Now, what are you talking about? Be quiet, Granny.
It's like a running joke over here.
Cheesy, go ahead.
First, there is an interview with Craddock where he did say that there is no evidence of foul play on the part of the parents. Also,
Actually, cheesy wheezy with no teethy. What was said was, I can't find evidence that Sebastian Rogers ever left the house. That's what he said.
back when you said that that the Proudfoots tried to abduct Faith,
Mhm.
you said that that was in court records.
Yep.
But then you also said that you don't agree with what Katie said, that you didn't agree with Seth abusing Sebastian because it's what Katie said in court records.
Different
So
kinds
what's
of
the
court records.
difference?
That's exactly
Different kinds
right.
of court records. What I'm looking at with Chris abducting Faith is that he takes out this temporary protective order. He claims that Nina hit him. They go through the process. They go to court. And what court says is there's no evidence that Nina is a danger to herself, you, or this child. And then Nina was allowed to leave with the child to go to New Mexico. Obviously, I don't have the full transcripts. I would love to have them. That's something I would like to see. I'm not sure if a FOIA request would get me that because it is personal. But then if you look at Chris, Katie and Seth, it was the exact same reasoning. Katie made these accusations against Seth. It was adjudicated, and the court determined that there did not appear to be evidence that Seth was abusive.
Yep.
Well, that's not true.
They had only
only
her words, and those words were spoken during a divorce. And believe it or not, Granny, judges make allowances for things like divorces. You should behave well. You should be able to be an adult and control your emotions even during a divorce. Unfortunately, not everybody can.
Court case ended up. They got joint custody. There was no supervised custody. It was just.
Well, if you listen,
if there were evidence.
I have a question about that. What do you have documents about that? About Faith? About him and Faith, their custody agreement or whatever about Faith?
I went through the Tennessee court records, the New Mexico court records.
Oh, okay. So it's like, okay. I was just gonna say, I just didn't know if you got like extra. You know what I'm saying?
No, nothing.
Support the facts that you were saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
everything I've used is publicly available.
Well, okay, Aiden, are you aware that the court still labels?
Hold on, baby. 1 second. I have something I want to say. I have something. Is your email available?
Yeah, it's the you can get to me at thelorelodge@gmail.com.
Okay, I would say I'll find it on there. I just wanted to make sure, but look out for me. I'm gonna send something over.
Sure.
If
If I'm wrong and you guys have the proof that I'm wrong, send it to me.
Well, that's what I mean. I would, just, you know what I mean.
Well, I'm going to tell you that Seth on a podcast himself stated that the courts labeled him borderline abusive, and that he himself stated that CPS. Yeah,
I hate to kid. I feel like I'm picking on you. I'm really not. Never in 12 years of interacting with courts in multiple states, never have I heard the official designation borderline abusive when it comes to charges. That's kind of not how charges work, Granny. There are statutes, there's laws on the books where they define the charging documents, what has to be in place in order to get a guilty verdict for said law. Borderline abusive, it's not a real thing, Granny. I don't know what you're talking about, but it doesn't mean anything. What you said is nonsense.
And he stated CPS never even investigated him for those claims.
Blah,
He should have
blah,
given
blah,
alleged
blah,
behind the CPS off. But see, that's now, but that I'm not that blinded by everything happening, but it seems like you have a lot of excuses when it comes to Seth because you're set on your narrative of them being guilty. That
it's kind of sad to watch this unfold. They're struggling with facts, and it's hard to understand why they are so enamored of Christopher Proudfoot when the rest of us watch Christopher Proudfoot operate and we are legitimately disgusted by the way he treats people, humanity, everyone. All right. And this is about Christopher Proudfoot He's bubbling with with a good mood. He finds everything funny. I can hear the smile on his face. Just listen.
I mean, his tantrums were pretty bad. I mean, now granted.
So that's Sebastian. Well, sweetheart. And this video is highlighting, just with no extra, just putting his own words. These are all the negative things that Christopher Proudfoot said in one interview that was negative against Sebastian.
Granted, what you call dancing, what I call dancing, and what he calls dancing, totally different. So I've had CPS called on me in 2 states.
Now, call me crazy, but does he sound like he's proud of that? Isn't that the strangest tone in his voice? Like he's literally proud. Listen to it again. It's crazy.
So I've had CPS called on me in 2 states, New Mexico and Tennessee.
Wow. Crazy. Listen to this.
Sebastian went to school one day because we were at the house. He got in trouble. He didn't have a belt on.
So you tell me, did Sebastian get in trouble because he didn't have a belt on? Is that why he got hit with a belt? Yes. So sorry, Granny's watching. You're wrong again.
I was like, where's your belt? Got it. Whack. Got him. That I was going to get in trouble over something stupid. And I was like, no, Sebastian, you got punished, man. You got punished. And he was like, but. And I was like, you got punished. And the lady took him outside. She was Sebastian.
Okay, question. How many of you guys are working in the system? You're a therapist, you are a social worker, you may even work for Child Protective Services. In what life would you go to a house to conduct an investigation to see if a kid is in danger? Would you go to that house and be friends with the abuser? In what life? Christopher Proudfoot, this point right here, I'm going to call you a big, fat, humongous liar. No, I do not believe that the CPS worker chose your side. That is delusional, or you're just lying because you know that's not what happened.
Just because you get in trouble and you get punished, you need to understand when you go and you say things about people and you lie, you fabricate things and you make it sound worse than what it is, sir, you can get in trouble for that. So we had that happen, and the lady was like, I am so sorry. And I said, no, he's just a child. He's upset.
Oh, hell no. No fuss. Stepman can discipline my child. Have you ever wrestled with him or roughhoused around just playing? I will have to finish tomorrow. This guy is something else. I have a feeling you put fear in him. When did you get home after Sebastian vaporized? A belt? Yeah, parenting 101 with an autistic child is hitting a boy with a belt.
It is what it is. I'm okay with it. Mm-hmm. You know, he sat that back down at the dinner table and was like, see, eat your food. And we went back.
That's the part that makes my blood run cold. I can see him taunting Sebastian, saying, go ahead, go tell on me. No one's going to believe you. And then there they were in the moment. There was an outcry made. CPS did come to the house. So Christopher Proudfoot lied. And after she left, they sat down and Christopher Proudfoot laughed at Sebastian and said, see, I told you they wouldn't do anything about it.
That's why it was like, not only that, but for him to go out the window, so to speak, he would have landed in the flower bed and, you know, barefooted. Yeah, we'd have heard something because he had landed on it.
What? We would have heard something, Christopher?
Landed in the flower bed and, you know, barefooted. Yeah, we'd have heard something because he had landed on it. In the flower bed and, you know, barefooted. Yeah, we'd have heard something because he had landed on it.
We'd have heard something. Is that right? You know, I'm hoping that Tennessee, when they do these trials, that there'll be cameras in the courtroom, Christopher. I mean, we did get cameras with Bullhorn Betty, right? So you helped set the precedent for that. So yeah, I'm really hoping to be able to watch the trial of just you, or perhaps you with Katie. Either one. You can bet I'll be there every single night, covering it wall to wall, listening to the attorneys and all of the talking heads. And all the while, we here at Jewels of Thought, True Crime Jewels, we're just going to be sitting back, whistling a tune. Uh-oh, we don't have any sound. Why isn't it turning up?
On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep. Barry Morphew's case is hot.
Here we go. We better start over. We're going to be whistling happy tunes, Christopher Proudfoot,
Well,
watching
I'm
that
sitting in
trial.
my chair late at night, watching crime unfold under the pale moonlight. From
Everybody,
the darkest corners,
I hope you had a
stories
very
unfold.
good evening.
True crime jewels, she's brash and she is bold.
Thank you for
On the
being here.
YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep.
I hope you'll do the
From
YouTube
missing
thing
kids
and
in
click that
Tennessee to
subscribe button.
angry husband's name Barry. True crime's calling, and we're taking the time.
And
So
hit the
grab a
thumbs up
seat,
for
don't
me.
miss a beat. This True Crime Jewels got what you need. From missing people to twisted minds, we're unraveling secrets old Barry tried to hide. Every clue, every twist and turn. In the world of crime, there's always more to learn. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From Christopher's anger to Stephen Fisher's lies, the truth is calling and justice won't be denied. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. True Crime Jewels on the YouTube streets. Lights are low, suspense is high. We're chasing truth, we spot every lie. Step into the darkness, hold on tight. Two flashlights out there in the dead of night. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep. Barry Morphew's case is hot. A boy in Tennessee won't be left behind. From the coldest cases to the ones that shine, true crime's calling, and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This True Crime Jewels got what you need. We're always watching Barry and waiting for the truth. In the world of crime, we discuss the proof. So hit that play and join the true crime journey with Jewels of Thought and her gemstone family. Well, I'm sitting in my chair late at night, watching crime unfold under the pale moonlight. From the darkest corners, stories unfold. True crime jewels, she's brash and she is bold. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries missing kids in Tennessee to angry husbands named Bear. True crime's calling, and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This true crime jewel's got what you need. From missing people to twisted minds, we're unraveling secrets old Barry tried to hide. Every clue, every twist and turn. In the world of crime, there's always more to learn.